Well, let's get started. So again, thanks to everybody for signing up today and coming to our little session. Let me get started. I want to introduce myself, and then we're going to begin. So let's see, Kate, can you go to slide number 1? Now, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, today I'm going to talk about a very simple technique called daily questions. I'm going to talk about how you can increase individual effectiveness and build engagement. Increasing your own individual effectiveness and build engagement. And this is part of my project called Knowledge Philanthropy. I'm experimenting with the idea of just give everything away as much as I can in the time I have left to do it. And so please send me an email, www.marshallgoldsmith.com is my website. And this will all be put up on my website. All of my material, you may copy, share, download, duplicate. Please use any of my material in any way that you wish. And one other thing, if you'd like to copy any of my material or change it, please feel free to change it. I don't care. I'm a Buddhist. Buddhists that only do what I teach if it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. But please have that attitude as you go through this session. Anything I teach that works for you, please feel free to use it. And if it doesn't work for you, that's okay. Just don't use it. It's all right. And I love getting emails, marshall@marshallgoldsmith.com. So if you'd like to send me an email, please feel free to do so. Now, if you send me an email, I can't promise to get back to you immediately, but I will get back to you eventually. So, Kate, let's just go to no slide for a second. Now, let me do just a very brief introduction. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Marshall. I'm from a small town called Valley Station, Kentucky. I went to school in Indiana. I got a PhD at UCLA. I was a college professor and dean when I was very, very young. Then for 43 years, I've done 3 things. I give talks or teach classes like today, which is what I enjoy. Traveled all around the world, as we mentioned. I've been to 102 countries. So I'm used to traveling all around before this COVID hit. Then I write books and articles. I've written or edited 43 books. I've done 6 bestsellers, 3 New York Times bestsellers, and then the other 37 purchased by my mother, my father, and relatives. But I have sold about 2.5 million books. So I sold a lot of books. Then I write and edit books. I make videos. So people have seen my videos millions of times. And if you go to my channel on YouTube, you can see my videos, or if you go to my website, you can see hundreds of videos online, and they're all for free. And then the other thing I do is coach executives. So I've been the coach of the CEO of Ford and Pfizer and Glaxo and the World Bank and the Mayo Clinic and all kinds of people. And what I love about coaching is that's where I learn everything. Although I'm supposed to teach these people, I actually learn from these people far more than I teach to these people. So I do that, and I've been married for 46 years. My wife, Lyda, is a PhD psychologist. My daughter, Kelly, is a professor at Vanderbilt University. Very happy she got the Professor of the Year award as the best teacher and researcher at Vanderbilt Business School this year, so proud daddy. And then my son, Brian, is an entrepreneur, lives in Austin, Texas, and he's putting together a new business called BroadwayLessons.com, where a lot of people on Broadway are not doing well here in New York City, and this way they can give music lessons, and hopefully we're going to find some employment for people who are on Broadway. So BroadwayLessons.com. So life is good, and I've got a couple of little grandkids, which is one of the hard things because I miss seeing them. That's one of the hard things about this crisis, is not getting to see my kids and grandkids as much as I would like. Now, Kate, next slide. Let's get started. What are we going to be doing today? Well, I'm going to talk about get ready to use daily questions, and especially active questions, to help you increase your individual effectiveness and to build employee engagement. Now, I'm going to teach you a process that takes 3 or 4 minutes a day, and it costs absolutely nothing, and it's going to help you get better at almost anything. Some of you are skeptical. 3 minutes a day, it costs nothing, help me get better at almost anything. This sounds too good to be true. Half the people that start doing this quit. They quit within 2 weeks. And they don't quit because it does not work. They quit because it does work. What I teach you today is very easy to understand, and it's very difficult to do. Then I'm going to share the basics of my friend Alan Mullally, who was CEO of the Year in the United States, proven VPR process. Now, just like and the reason Alan and I get along so well is I was Alan's coach. The reason we get along so well is he, like me, has a very simple process. I've been around Alan for many years, and he was ranked #3 greatest leader in the entire world one year, only behind the Pope and Grand Angela Merkel. When he went to Ford, the stock was valued at $1.01. He left, it was $18.40. The stock went up. The stock went up 1,837% when he was CEO. And even more impressive, he had a 97% approval rating as a CEO for every employee in a union company. He's an amazing man. Yet nothing he does is complicated. It's also just like everything I teach. It's not hard to understand, it's hard to do. And then finally, I'm going to share how this process called LPR, this is a process I've been doing now every week. I guess for the last 3 or 4 months, we have 50 amazing leaders that do this every week. And I'm going to share it with you because it's a process that's very transferable. If you're a coach or if you're a leader, this is a process you can do with people who you know as well. So Kate, let's go to the next slide. Now, why is change so difficult? Why is change so difficult? Well, as we journey through life, my theory is our challenge in life is not knowing what to do. Our challenge in life is doing it. Our challenge in leadership is not understanding the practice of leadership. Our challenge of leadership is practicing our understanding of leadership. It's not understanding the practice, it's practicing our understanding. Well, this stuff is not hard to understand. It's hard to do. New Year's resolutions. By February, most of our New Year's resolutions are gone. Coaching clients that don't change, daily failures, even in small things. Next slide. Why is change so difficult? Well, as we journey through life, we're constantly bombarded by triggers. What is a trigger? A trigger is any stimulus that may impact our behavior. Any stimulus may impact our behavior as a trigger. Well, let's stop and talk about triggers for a second. A trigger could be a sight, it could be a sound, could be a word, could be an image. A trigger is any stimulus that impacts our behavior. And as we journey through life, these triggers sometimes push us toward becoming the person we want to be. In most cases, just the opposite. These triggers push us away from the person that we want to be. And when I wrote my book, Triggers, I thought this was an important concept. Since I've written the book, I realize this is much more pervasive than I ever imagined. Now, one of my projects is called 100 Coaches. And then I'm going to connect this to Martin Lindstrom and what we're working on right now. One of my projects is called the 100 Coaches. I went to a program called Design the Life You Love, put on by a wonderful woman named Aisha Purcell. And she asked me, who are your heroes? My heroes were very kind and generous people who are great teachers. And she said, you should be more like them. I decided to adopt 15 people, teach them all I know for free. And the only price is when they get old, they have to do the same thing. I made a little selfie video and put it on LinkedIn. I thought maybe 100 people would apply. And then I'd adopt 15 people. I'd be a nice old man wandering through life, and they'd listen to me talk and laugh at my jokes. And then they'd get old and they'd adopt 15 people, and it's a cycle of life. And that would be fine. Well, I was a little bit off in my assessment. I thought 100 people would apply. Over 18,000 people applied for adoption. Over 18,000 people applied, and now I've adopted about 280 people. This is called the 100 Coach Program. And the idea is just give away all you know. And by the way, this is a wonderful thing for all of us to do. Just give away all you know. That's what this whole class is about today. Give away all I know. Why not? What am I saving it up for? Give it away. If it can help anybody, just give it away. Well, back to this project. One of the people I've adopted is named Martin Lindstrom. Martin Lissam's a wonderful guy. He's the world's expert in branding. He's a marketing expert. And I just read his book called Biology, B-U-I-ology. In his book, he talks about how we're all manipulated by advertisers. We're constantly being manipulated by marketing. And by the way, often in ways we're completely unaware of. Billions of dollars have been spent designing triggers to influence our buying behavior, not millions, hundreds of billions or perhaps trillions of dollars are being spent. So as we journey through life, we are bombarded with message after message after message after message. Some of these messages are blatant and obvious. Buy this. Many are subtle and indirect. Yet we are bombarded with messages that are aimed to influence our behavior. These triggers, these are all triggers designed to get us to do something. And it's very hard to overcome this. It's very, very hard to overcome this. Now, if we look at this concept of triggers, think about who is the person I want to become? Who is that person that I want to become? My job is not to tell you who you want to be. I'm not in that business. My job is to help you be who you want to be. My job is not to tell you who you want to be. To me, that needs to come from your heart. My job is to help you be that person that you want to be. And my belief is most of us have very good hearts. We want to be nice people. Our problem is not our intention. Our problem is actually our behavior. When we get triggered, we get pushed in the wrong direction. And if you read Martin's books, you realize how pervasive this is. Now, next slide. Next slide. As we journey through life, there's a great question: who is in control? And we can look at external control and internal control. And we can talk about 4 different types of looking at our control in life. The first one is low on external control, low on internal control. That philosophy is life is a random walk. This is all just a crapshoot. And that's why people buy lottery tickets. They just believe that life is a totally random event. And a lot of people think that. There's not much sense or logic, chaos theory. The second belief is I create the world. And if you've ever been to a motivational speech, it always focuses on this. You know, Jimmy was poor and sick and tired, and then he believed he could do it, and he did it, and now Jimmy's rich. And so I create the world. Oh, by the way, somebody says, can we get the slides? Definitely. Kate will make it sure that everybody can get access to all the slides. So I create the world. And if you ever read a book called The Secret, now the book sold 7 million copies. It's a hugely successful book. And the book says, if I envision it, I will happen. And, you know, every story in the book, I'm assuming, is true. Mary wanted to be a movie star, and she envisioned it, and it happened. And Joe wanted to win the basketball championship, and he envisioned it would happen, and it happened. And Harry had cancer, and he envisioned it went away, and it went away. And all the stories are true. There's only one problem with the book. They didn't interview the dead people who also envisioned things. They didn't interview the 1,000 waitresses in Hollywood who envisioned being movie stars. They didn't envision the hundreds of thousands of cancer patients who envisioned cancer would go away, and it didn't. I have a degree in mathematics. This is called the survivor bias, the survivor bias. Well, I believe we can create the world to a degree, but we're not gods. Anyone on this call can walk outside and get run over by a car or struck by lightning. We can create the world to a degree, but we're not gods. We don't totally create the world. Now, the opposite is the world creates me. That means all we are is victims of these stimulus in our environment, these triggers. They totally create us. And B.F. Skinner, the famous Harvard psychologist, wrote a book called Beyond Freedom and Dignity. And in that book, he makes a fascinating point. He thinks everything is basically, we are a stimulus response machine. Well, and if you look at marketers, that's the way they treat us, like a stimulus response machine. That's what marketing is all about, creating us. And then finally, what I believe, and I'm going to talk about in my book, Triggers, is called mutual creation. Next slide. Mutual creation. Now, what does this mean? I am creating my world. I'm not just a victim. I'm not hopeless. It's not that I don't have any impact on the world. I am creating my world. And at the same time, triggers in my world are creating me. At the same time, triggers in my world are creating me. And if you don't think you're influenced by advertising, by marketing, by millions of things, you're just kidding yourself. As human beings, we have something called mirror neurons. We mirror what we see. If you see a happy face, you tend to smile. You see a sad face, you tend to frown. You see people cry, you tend to be sad. If people laugh, you tend to be happy. We are constantly being created by the world around us. Now, next slide. My goal is very simple. My goal is just make a little bit of shift. So to the degree you're creating a little bit more of your life and you're being created by the world around you a little less. You're a little bit more in charge of, you know what, I have a vision of who I want to be, and I'm a little bit more in charge of becoming that person as opposed to the world is creating me. Now, typically, as we journey through life, the impact of triggers, there is a trigger in our environment. That trigger leads to an impulse, and that impulse leads to behavior. The idea of my work is there's still going to be triggers every day, and they still lead to these impulses. Yet, if we can become aware of what's going on around us, we realize I have a choice. And our choice becomes a function of the behavior, not our choice becomes a function of the trigger. So let me give you a couple of examples. Let's take the marketing example. You're walking through the store. You're trying to go on a diet. You smell Cinnabon. Ooh, cinnamon tasty. Ooh. Well, what happens? That's a trigger, a very strong trigger. Smell, very strong trigger. And if we're not careful, what happens to your diet? It is gone. Breathe. I have a choice. I have a choice. I have a choice. I don't have to be controlled by these triggers in my environment. I have a choice. Now, let me give you, speaking of triggers, an email that a young man sent to me that's in my book, Triggers, that really illustrates this point. And by the way, if anyone listening to this call would send me an email like this email, I would be very proud of today. A young man sent me an email and he said, you know, I wanted to send you an email today and say thank you. And I said, I know you don't remember me. I was in your class at Dartmouth College, and I taught at Dartmouth College, Tuck School, for many years. He said, I was in your class at Dartmouth. And I want to say thank you today. He said, you know, I was in your class 5 years ago. You taught me some things. And he said, yesterday, my wife called. And she was having a hard day. And she was talking about what a hard day she was having. And it was kind of a trigger for me. I was just getting ready to point out how her problems pale in significance to my own, and that I was under a lot of pressure. And why was I listening to her waste my time talking about her problems when I had bigger problems than she did? I was just getting ready to say these idiotic things. Then he said, I started breathing, and I remembered your class. And I thought, this is my wife. This is my wife. This is someone I love. This is not the enemy. I started breathing, and I listened to my wife, and I just said, thank you. Thank you for everything that you're doing for the family. Thank you so much. I love you. Then he said, I went home and I spent $25 and I bought my wife some flowers. I gave her the flowers and I said, I love you. I'm sorry you've had such a hard day. I love you. Thank you for all you're doing. He said, that was the best $25 I've ever spent in my life. Thank you. Well, the next time that trigger goes off and we feel angry, you feel that need to lash out, breathe, breathe, and you realize I have a choice. I have a choice. Now, I've probably read 400 books on Buddhism. And I'm going to save you some time. There's a concept called mindfulness, M-I-N-D, mindfulness. It's very popular right now. There's like all courses on mindfulness and retreats on mindfulness. I'm going to save you some time and effort. I'm going to share one technique with you that'll probably help you achieve mindfulness more than almost anything you could think of. I want you to get out paper and in very large letters, put in front of you a question that you see as much as possible. What is that question? Am I being the person that I want to be right now? Am I being the person that I want to be right now? Now, if the answer is yes, you're probably going in a very positive direction. If the answer is no, you may be going in the wrong direction. Am I being the person that I want to be right now? To me, that is a definition of mindfulness. As we journey through life, breathing, breathing. Not what are these triggers pushing me to be? Who is the person I want to be right now? Breathe. Okay, next slide. Next slide. By the way, my friend Carol Kaufman is the person that taught me that. Now, as we journey through life, we're constantly bombarded by distractions, and today is worse than ever. Emails, cell phones, tablets, texting, on-demand TV, movies, games, social media. Now, why don't people do what I teach? I'm probably the only teacher you've ever met that's actually collected data from tens of thousands of people that measure, do people do what I teach and do they get better? Well, the good news is people who do the stuff get better. You do the stuff I teach you today, you'll get better at almost anything. Why don't people do it? Years ago, my biggest client was a company called Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson, a wonderful company, and I had the privilege of working with their top 2,000 leaders, all the way from Ralph Larson, who was the CEO, down to number 2,000. And I did a little class, and at the end of my class, they were asked, are you going to do what Marshall just taught you? About 98% of people said, yes, I'm going to do what he said. A year later, we measured, did people actually do the things I asked them? And they were pretty simple. You know, they got feedback, talked to people, follow up, my basic coaching process. 30% of people did nothing, not 1 minute. 30%, zero. I got to talk to people who did nothing and said, why'd you do nothing? Why did you do nothing? Well, Kate, if you can cut away from the slides. Why did you do nothing? Well, the answer had nothing to do with ethics, values, or integrity. The answer had to do with a dream. It's a dream I've had for years, and I'm sure it's a dream that many of you may have had. What's a dream sound like? You know, I'm incredibly busy right now. Given pressures of work, home, and new technology that follows me everywhere, I feel about as busy as I ever have. Sometimes I feel overcommitted. Every now and again, my life feels a little bit out of control. Yet, you know, I'm working on some very unique and special challenges right now, and I think the worst of this is going to be over in about 4 or 5 months. And after that, I'm going to take 2 or 3 weeks and I'm going to get organized and I'm going to spend some time with my family and I'm going to begin my new Healthy Life program. And after that, everything's going to be different. And you see, it's not going to be crazy anymore. It's not going to be crazy anymore. I want you to put some notes there in the chat box. Have you ever had a dream that sounds like this dream before? You had this dream that everything's going to be fine in 3 or 4 months and it won't be crazy. And yeah, and yes, all the time. How many years have we been having this dream? How many years have we been having the same dream? Yeah, many years. Somebody said 40 years, a year and a half. I always have this dream. 10 years, years and years, 15 years. I want everyone to look up here, my whole life. I want everybody to look up here and smile. Take a deep breath, smile. Do your hand like this, hand. Oh. Now, there's not going to be any 3 or 4 months. Sanity is not going to appear. There's a good chance tomorrow is going to get even crazier today. Tomorrow is going to be even crazier than today. If we want to do something different, you need to ask a very, very hard question. What am I willing to change now? What am I willing to change now? Just do that. Just do that. We're not going to change everything else anyway. You're not going to change 1,000 things. What am I willing to do now? In the middle of all this insanity, what am I willing to do now? Just do that. Just do that. Okay, Kate, next slide. Next slide. Now, classic delusions. We have these classic delusions that really influence our lives. And one of them is called the planner bias. We believe if I understand something, I will do it. No, there's a huge difference between I understand and I do. We spend hours and hours trying to develop our understanding when our problem is we already know what to do, we just don't do it. It won't take that long, it won't be that hard. Things always take longer than we think, and they're harder than we think. The high probability of low probability distractions. What does that mean? I have an undergraduate degree in mathematics. We don't ever think about the high probability of low probability distractions. What does that mean? Well, it means this: as we journey through life, we never plan on the computer breaks. My foot hurts. I broke my leg. My aunt died. We never plan low probability distractions because the odds on any one of these things happening are tiny. Our challenge is there are a million low probability things that can go wrong. And while the odds on any one of these going wrong are quite small, the odds on something that happen are almost certain. Well, we never plan for it. Another delusion, I love this one. Today is a special day. It's a special day. I'm going to go on that diet, but it's the Super Bowl. I have to watch the football and eat the pizza and guacamole. Or, you know, I'm going to get that healthy lifestyle, but it's my birthday. It's my birthday. It's my kid's birthday. It's my wife's birthday. It's my parents' birthday. It's somebody's birthday. Well, when we don't want to do something, we have an incredible gift of declaring today as a special day and giving ourselves an exemption. We believe we have willpower. Willpower is grossly overrated. And I think I don't need structure and I don't need help. Wrong. We all need more structure and help than we can imagine. Kate, next slide. Now, an important thing is to admit it's okay to need help. It's okay to need help. Now, one thing I'm very proud of in my life is, for example, my book Triggers. 27 major CEOs endorsed that book. 27. Now, why am I so proud of this? 27 major CEOs. 30 years ago, no CEO would admit to having a coach. They would have been ashamed to have had a coach, embarrassed to have a coach. Well, these people are all standing up today and saying, you know, I'm the CEO of the year in the United States. I need help. I'm president of the World Bank. I need help. I'm CEO of Walmart. I need help. I'm the head of the Rockefeller Foundation. I need help. I won the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I need help. We all need help. We all need help. How many of the top 10 tennis players have a coach? 10. They're not ashamed to have a coach. One of the greatest dancers in history and a great choreographer, Twyla Thorpe, has had the same personal trainer for 27 years. 27 years. Now, why has she had the same trainer for 27 years? The trainer doesn't teach her anything new. The trainer just makes sure that she's doing what she knows she needs to do over and over because she knows, hey, my name is Twyla Thorpe. I need help. I need help. Now I'm going to give you yourself, and Kate, can you leave the slide? I'm going to give you an example of my own life and then think about how this applies to you. Yeah, Raymond has a good point. Many people are still ashamed today to admit that they need help. We all need help. I have a person call me on the phone almost every day for the past 25 years. Now the person changes, yet the process doesn't. Some people need coaching. Some people need help. And some people need lots of help. I need lots of help. I have a person call me up every day. Now, today, the person calling me is my friend Mark Thompson. Over the years, it's been my friend Jasmine, Jim Moore, all kinds of different people call me over the years. Sometimes I've paid people, sometimes it's just been friends. I have someone call me on the phone every day. Every day, this person calls me to make sure I practice what I'm going to teach you in this Zoom call. Every day, the person listens to me read questions I wrote and provide answers I wrote every day. Now, someone ask me, why do you do this every day? Don't you know the theory about how to change behavior? Don't you know the theory? I wrote the theory. I wrote the book. Why do I do this every day? I'll explain it. My name is Marshall. I got ranked #1 executive coach and leadership thinker in the whole world. I have someone call me on the phone every day just to listen to me read questions I wrote and provide answers I wrote every day. Why do I do this every day? My name is Marshall. I am too cowardly to do this by myself. I am too undisciplined to do this by myself. I need help. And it's okay. It's okay. I need help. It's okay. We all need help. It's okay. Get over that macho willpower, I can do it on my own nonsense. Almost all of us have got this garbage that we haven't done for 20 or 30 years. Send me a little chat note. What is something you've been telling yourself, I'm going to do this for the last 20 years or so, but you haven't gotten around to doing it yet? Send me some examples of that. Well, like learn Spanish, write a book, check my daily progress with my wife, or do this sessions, or do something with my parents, or learn music, or learn Polish, finish my PhD, exercise. We've all got this stuff we've been talking about we haven't done for 20 years. Let's get real. If you haven't done this for 20 years, why do you think you're going to start doing it next week? If you haven't done it for 20 years, why are you going to start doing it next? You're not. If somebody doesn't remind you and give you some structure, it's probably not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. So get over this macho willpower, I can do it on my own nonsense, and realize we all need help. It's okay. Once I admit I need help, it's much more likely to get better. It's much more likely to get better. Kate, next slide. Now, the value of structure. Let me give you, I think, the best example of this denial of the need for help and the negative impact it's had that I can ever imagine. There's a wonderful book called The Checklist Manifesto, published by Dr. Atul Gawande from Harvard Medical School. The Checklist Manifesto, in his book, The Checklist Manifesto, Dr. Gawande makes a very sobering point. If you go in for surgery and the nurse asks the doctor a series of very simple questions from a checklist before the surgery, the odds on unneeded infection plummet, and the death rate because of unnecessary infection is cut by 2/3. This is not a theory. This is a very well-documented statistical fact. The huge majority of hospitals around the world do not allow the nurse to ask the doctor the questions. What is the first question? Did you wash your hands? Why? Ego. According to Dr. Gawande, more people have died because of the egos of surgeons than died in the Vietnam War, the Afghan War, and the Iraqi War put together. Too much ego. They're ashamed to admit they need help. They're ashamed to admit they need structure. Too much ego. Too much ego. Now, the daily question process, part of the inspiration for this process came from the idea of the checklist, that we do need this every day. My friend Alan Mullally's process that he used to turn around the Ford Motor Company every week, clear structure, clear direction. My LPR process every week, clear structure, clear direction. So we all need help, we all need structure, and it's okay. We don't have to be ashamed. It's okay. Once we admit, I don't have to be ashamed to need this structure, life is better. Next slide. 3 keys to positive change: courage, humility, and discipline. Courage, humility, and discipline. Okay, leave slide. Now, what do I mean when I say courage, humility, and discipline? Courage. It takes courage to do what I'm going to teach you today. It doesn't take being a genius. It takes courage. Somebody said, what is the BPR process and LPR? I'm going to get to those. So courage is the courage to look in the mirror. And if you think any of this is easy, you've never done it before. It's not easy. It takes a lot of courage. It takes discipline to do the day work required to get better. It takes humility. You know, one thing I've learned as an executive coach, if someone's perfect, I cannot help them get better. If someone is perfect, I cannot really help them get better. It takes humility to improve. We have to admit we need help. We have to admit we're not perfect. Then we can start getting better. Courage, humility, and discipline. Okay, next slide. Now, the daily question process. Now, here's why it works and here's how it works. First, I want you to get out a spreadsheet. Now, on this spreadsheet, I want you to write down a series of questions that represent what's most important in your life. Could be friends, could be family, could be coworkers, could be health. And each question has to be answered with a yes, a no, or a number. Yes is recorded as a 1. No is recorded as a 0 or a number. For example, how many push-ups did I do? That's a number, 20. Every day, 7 boxes across, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you fill out the little forms every day. And at the end of the week, this process gives you a little report card. Now, I'm going to warn all of you in advance that report card at the end of the week might not be quite as beautiful as a corporate values plaque that you see up on the wall. And some of you may have read my bio, and I've been a very blessed person, you know, and I won lots of awards and stuff, and people always introduce me and talk about how wonderful I am. They usually leave one thing out. I've got an incredible skill that's almost never mentioned in my introductions. What is it? I have the unbelievable ability to screw something up pretty much every day. Yeah, every day I seem like I screw something up. I do something stupid pretty much every day. Well, the hard thing about this daily question process is you actually get to look at it every day. And it's not that pretty. It's not that pretty. It's not that pretty. Well, it's hard to do this. It's easy to understand this. It's hard to face the reality of our own lives. Now, I'm going to share some of my questions. My questions are not intended to be your questions. Then I'm going to ask you to write down in the chat box some of the questions you might have for yourself. One of my questions every day is, did I do my best to avoid proving I was right when it was not worth it? You know, how many times in a day do I try to prove I'm right when it's not worth it? And it's kind of hard for that old professor not to be right all the time. It's kind of hard for that old professor not to be right all the time. And it's hard to say, it's not worth it. Well, you know, in life, we've been programmed to prove how smart and right we are over and over and over again. And, you know, we have several people from India on the call. Is anyone who went to school at a university called IIT, Indian Institute of Technology? Anybody go to school there? I'm bringing us in the note there in the chat box, Indian Institute of Technology. Oh, we've got some of my fine engineers there from India Institute of Technology. Oh, very good. I see we have a bunch of people from IIT. Very, very good. Now, my fine IIT engineers, I want to tell you a little IIT joke. How do you know that engineer from IIT is smart? Well, how do you know the IIT engineer is smart? Well, you hang around them for 8 or 10 minutes and they tell you over and over and over and over again. How do you know they're smart? They tell you over and over again. Now, my friendly IIT engineer, I said, true, 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 true. Great observation. How many times do you, little IIT engineer, did you have to prove how smart you are to get in that school? How many tests have you taken? Hundreds, thousands. How many times have you had to prove you're smart? Millions, millions. How easy is it to stop? It's very hard to stop. We have all taken thousands and thousands of tests in our lives. We've all had to prove how smart we are over and over and over and over and over. It's very hard to do anything else. Yeah, I have a PhD. What does that mean? I have a big need to prove how smart I am. Why else would I get a PhD? I've taken test after test after test. Prove I'm smart, prove I'm smart, prove I'm smart. Over and over again. Whoa, number one leadership thinker in the whole world. Prove I'm smart, prove I'm smart, prove I'm smart. Very hard not to do this. Very hard not to do this. Now, another one of my daily questions is, how many steps did you take? How many push-ups? How many sit-ups? How much do you weigh? Did you say or do something nice for your wife? Did you say or do something nice for your son, your daughter, your grandchildren? Just questions about life. Now, my friend Jim Moore would tell you this process saved his life. It didn't kind of save his life or sort of save his life. It did save his life. What's one of his daily questions? Are you currently updated on your physical examination? Are you currently updated on your physical examination? Well, you know what? The first 90 days he did this, he said no every day. No, 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 every day. After 90 days, he said, this is embarrassing. I've got to get the dumb physical exam or quit asking the question. Well, he got the physical exam. What did the doctor say? You have cancer. Now, that was many years ago. My friend Jim is fine. The doctor also said, had you waited 7 more months, you would have been dead. He knew he should have gotten a physical exam. My friend Jim was 65 years old at the time, chief learning officer of 3 multi-billion-dollar corporations. He's not a stupid man. He knew he should have done it. He didn't do it. Well, when you hold this mirror in your face every day, it's hard to hide. It's hard to hide from the reality of our own lives. I was teaching at the University of Michigan, and I said, how many people in this room have ever avoided a physical exam, and you tell yourself, I'm going to get that exam after I go on that healthy foods diet. I'm going to get that exam after I begin my exercise program. I'm going to get that exam after I get in shape. How many of us have told ourselves that before? I was teaching at the University of Michigan. I said, raise your hand. This guy raised his hand. I said, sir, did you really trick the doctor with that strategy? Did you really trick the doctor with that strategy? He raised his hand. He goes, I am the doctor. I am the doctor. Well, he knew the theory. He is the doctor. He didn't do it himself. He didn't do it himself. Now, didn't do it himself. One person said, I lost my brother to cancer because of this. Get the stupid physical exam. Dr. Atul Gawande, I taught this to him. He liked these. Dr. Gawande loves this concept. And I saw Dr. Gawande at the airport. And then I saw him again a few months later and said, Dr. Gawande, how's your daily questions going? He said, thank you, Marshall. You did something to help me change my life. Dr. Gawande himself said, I didn't have health insurance for myself and my family. I said, you know, I'm not that rich. And I didn't have health insurance. And if I died, if my wife and I died, my kids would be in terrible condition. But I didn't have insurance. You know what I told myself? It's too complicated. It's too complicated. I'm too busy. And then I started put on my checklist, am I updated on my life insurance? Day after day, I wrote no. Then he said, I looked at my son and I told myself, It's too complicated. I'm a professor at Harvard Medical School, and I can't figure out how to get life insurance because it's too complicated. How pathetic is that? And he said, I'm too busy. He looked at my child. He said, I look at my child. I'm too busy to take care of my own children. How pathetic is that? You know, he said, I have life insurance now. Thank you. Well, look, Dr. Gawande understands the theory. He's a medical doctor. He wrote the book. That doesn't mean he was doing it himself. That doesn't mean he was doing it himself. Now, I want you to think about your own life. What is one question you should challenge yourself with every day? One question that you should test yourself on every day to remind you to do what's important to you. And it could be a big thing like help others. It could be a small thing like floss my teeth. Just jot down some questions there in the chat box. How many people have I judged today? A great question. Am I being the best mother I can be? Very, very good question. Am I happy today? Yeah. Did I do my best today? How many times have I lost my patience today? Am I being the best person I can be? Did I take my walk today? Did I work on my book today? Did I listen today? Did I meditate today? Really great questions. And here's the point. Nobody can write your questions for you but you. Nobody can write your questions for you but you. The idea is you write your own questions. What's really important is not what somebody tells you. What's important is you writing your own questions. Now, I am going to recommend 6 questions. Every day, I'm going to recommend you do these 6 questions. So, Kate, go to the slides. And before I get to that, I'm going to cycle back and I'm going to talk about employee engagement. Employee engagement and how these all connect. I went to a program at the National Academy of Human Resources on the topic of employee engagement. And I'm a fellow of this National Academy of Human Resources. And in the program, you had 3 of the top HR leaders in the world, and they talked about everything they know about employee engagement. And they talked about things like empowerment and recognition and rewards and training and fair compensation. And to be honest, I had heard the same stuff for 30 years. And then they said, in spite of all previous efforts, global employee engagement is near an all-time low. I'm thinking, this is puzzling. I've been hearing the same lecture for 30 years, and global employee engagement is near an all-time low. It doesn't seem to be working very well. Then I realized something. 100% of the dialogue in employee engagement is what can the organization do to engage you? And 0% is what can you do to engage yourself. This is not exaggeration. 100% of the discussion was the company should engage you, and 0% you have any responsibility to engage yourself. I thought, wait a minute. These people are missing half of an equation. They're missing half of an equation. John Kennedy gave a great speech. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Everything in employee engagement was exactly the opposite of the John Kennedy speech. Now, let's take the example of 2 flight attendants. And Kate, leave slide. Now, the 2 flight attendants, you're on an airplane. One flight attendant is positive, motivated, upbeat, enthusiastic. One of the flight attendants is negative, bitter, angry, and cynical. Same plane, same pay, the same uniform, the same customer, and the same employee engagement program. What's the difference? The difference is not on the outside. The difference is on the inside. The difference is not on the outside. The difference is on the inside. Now, as we journey through life, we see this all the time. You see it in the restaurant. You see it when you check in the hotel. Give me some examples of situations where you see 2 different people, 2 different employees, and one's really motivated and enthusiastic, and the one next to him is angry or bitter or cynical or negative. Well, we see this as we journey through life. The cashier in the supermarket, the leader, mechanics, the barista, anybody in customer service. I see it in myself. The doorman, yeah, I see it in myself. Well, I'm at the homeless shelter, I see it. Yeah, some people at the homeless shelter are not engaged. What are you there for? Why are you donating your time if you're cynical? The cab driver. Well, if we look at this as we journey through life, I really believe a lot of our engagement is influenced by the company. That is a fact, and companies should try to improve engagement as much as they can. On the other hand, a lot of engagement has nothing to do with the company. It's in our hearts. What am I doing to engage myself? Okay, Kate, next slide. Now, my daughter Kelly taught me something called active questions. Some of you may have seen my daughter Kelly before. My daughter Kelly is a graduate of Duke University. Then she was on a TV show, American TV show called Survivor Africa. So if you ever saw a TV show called Survivor, she was on the 3rd season of Survivor. After being on Survivor, she worked with Mark Burnett, the famous reality TV producer, 2 years. She did casting for Survivor, for The Amazing Race. Then she went back to college and she got 2 master's degree and a PhD from Yale University. And now she's a professor at Vanderbilt University, where she won the award as the Teacher of the Year at Vanderbilt Business School this year, as well as the Researcher of the Year. So very, very proud father. Now, I'm working on this concept of engagement with my daughter, Kelly. And Kelly taught me a valuable lesson that I'm going to share with you. Kelly said, Daddy, almost everything in employee engagement revolves around passive questions. Passive questions. And she said, there's nothing wrong with a passive question. Yet when you ask a passive question and someone gives you a negative response, they tend to blame the external environment. For example, a passive question you see in employee engagement surveys, do you have clear goals? And if the employee says no, well, the tendency is to say they're confused. Do you have meaningful work? No. Well, they make me do trivia. Do you have a best friend at work? No. They're a bunch of jerks. The focus is on them and what they need to change. Kelly said we need to ask active questions that begin with the phrase, did I do my best to? Why? These questions get me to focus not on what I cannot change. These questions get me to focus on what I can change. And if you are from India and you've read the Gita, this is the whole essence of the Gita. Do not become fixated on outcomes you don't control. You focus on what you can control. And the one thing in life we can control is, did I do my best? So, next slide. Now, I'm going to now share 6 questions I'm going to recommend that each one of you challenge yourself with every day. Each one of you challenge yourself with every day. And we're going to stop and I'm going to ask you to give me some input on a couple of these. The first one is, did I do my best to set clear goals? Every day, did I do my best to set clear goals? Now, I'm going to talk about something later called the LPR process. And in this LPR process, every day, I've got 50 of the highest achievers in the world, and every day they're evaluating on, did I do my best to set clear goals every day? And you'd be surprised. Some of these mega high achievers on a 1 to 10 scale might say 2 or 3 or 5. Why? You know what they say? I just forgot. I woke up, I got an email, I got busy, made a phone call, and then I never set any goals for the day at all. I guess my goals for the day was just respond to a bunch of crap because that's all I did. So first, take a few minutes. Did I do my best today to set clear goals? Number 2, did I do my best to make progress toward achieving my goals? Rather than saying, did someone else help me achieve my goals, did I do my best to achieve my own goals? Number 3, did I do my best to be happy? Did I do my best to be happy? Now let's stop. We're going to talk about this one. Did I do my best to be happy? Now, in my book, Triggers, and I do have the rights to use these people's name, of course, they're all my friends. In my book, Triggers, I tell a story of 3 medical doctors who are also CEOs. These are 3 of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. One of the 3 is Dr. Jim Kim. Dr. Jim Kim has a simultaneous MD medical degree and PhD with honors in anthropology from Harvard University in 5 years. Now, a normal human being to get a PhD in anthropology from Harvard University takes 8 years. We got one in 5 years. And he got a medical degree at the same time. When the brains were passed out, my friend, old Dr. Jim, he wasn't at the back of the line. Dr. Jim then went on to be the head of Partners in Health, one of the founders. He was also then president of Dartmouth College, where I met him. And then he went on to be the president of the World Bank, and now he's vice chairman of Global Infrastructure Partners. A brilliant and wonderful man who saved millions of lives. The second medical doctor I talk about in my book Triggers is Dr. Raj Shah. Dr. Raj Shah was Indian American of the Year a couple of years ago. He's head of the United States Agency for International Development. He reported to Hillary Clinton, who was Secretary of State. He saw President Obama every week at age 37 years old. Now he's the CEO of the Rockefeller Foundation. And the third one in my book is Dr. John Noseworthy, who was the CEO of the Mayo Clinic, #1 hospital in the world. Three of the most brilliant people I've ever met. All three individually, not together, individually asked this question. On an average day, 1 to 10, 10 is high, 1 is low. What score would you give yourself on the answer to this question? Did I do my best to be happy today? Did I do my best to be happy today? All three had the same answer. It never dawned on me to try to be happy. It never dawned on me to try to be happy. Now, they're all medical doctors. So I asked, did it dawn on you you're going to die? Did you figure that one out, the death thing? You got that one going? Yeah, they covered that in medical school, dead. I said, do you think this is a silly question? Trivial question? I said, no, this is an important question. I just forgot to ask. Just forgot to ask. These are three of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. I just forgot to ask. One of my favorite lines in my book Triggers is this: even the greatest sharpshooter can miss a very big target. Even the greatest sharpshooter can miss a very big target. These three people are among the most brilliant people I ever met. Forgot to try to be happy. Got too busy. I'm going to ask you to send me a number, just a number, that's all. On the average day, a 1 to 10 scale, 10 is high and 1 is low. What score would you give yourself on the answer to this question? Did I do my best to be happy today? Did I do my best to be happy today? We have 19946468292 2984567 That's enough. I don't think the average score would be very different than the average score in the world. The average score in the world on the answer to this question is right about a 5.5. 5.5. Now, by the way, the average score for my friendly IIT engineers is about the same, 5.5. Well, remember when you were in school, you took a test, you got a 5.5 out of 10 or a 55 out of 100. Would you be real proud of that score, or maybe would you be ashamed of that score? Probably be ashamed of that score. That little test I just gave you is more important than any test you ever took in school. It's more important than any test you ever took in school. And I have one suggestion: raise that score. This doesn't even say, were you happy? Did I do my best to try to be happy today? Did I do my best? Kate, go back. Now, the next is, did I do my best to find meaning? Not did other people give me meaning. Did I do my best every day to create meaning in what I'm doing? Did I do my best to create an environment where I'm finding meaning? Let's do flight attendants. One flight attendant is positive and motivated, and that person wants these people to have a great experience on the airplane. It's meaningful. The other flight attendant, I'm a stupid waitress. It's meaningless. It's the same job. One is creating meaning, one isn't. Let me give you a great example. One of my good friends is Gary Ridge. He's one of the people I've adopted in 100 Coaches. Gary Ridge is the CEO of an organization called WD-40. WD-40, they make lubricants. Amazing man, a wonderful man. The scores in his company on finding meaning are probably higher than the scores of another person who is the CEO of a children's hospital that cures kids with cancer. You think, wait a minute. One company, they make lubricants. Nothing wrong with that, but they're making lubricants, WD-40. Another company is curing little kids with cancer. How can the people in the lubricant company get higher scores on finding meaning than people in the cancer curing company? Well, you know, the answer to that is you're creating meaning every day. You're creating meaning. I want to have a better life. I want the people around you to have a better life. You're creating meaning. And a lot of our experience of meaning in life doesn't come from out there. It's what we make of it, how we create meaning. Now, I'd like you to send me some notes on the chat box. One thing is, what can you do every day in your life to create meaning, to make your work as meaningful as it can be every day? Not that the outside world controls. What's something you could do every day to create more meaning in your own life? Meditate, be my best. I love this. Express gratitude, give more, authentically connect with people, share my knowledge, thank people every day, tell my children I love them, be true to myself, do things with a purpose, be fully engaged in life. Great, great comments. Be generous, be a servant leader, don't compete. Well, nobody's stopping you from doing any of those things right now. Nobody's stopping you from doing those things. How many days do we forget to do these things? Every day. That's why we need these reminders and the structure. Kate, go back. Our final two is, did I do my best to build positive relationships? And when I talk about our LPR process, and it's going to be coming up, on this question, actually more people focus on home than they do at work. Most of the work we need to do in building relationships isn't at work, it has to do with home. And did I do my best to be fully engaged? And again, that's, am I being who I want to be now? Am I engaged now? Now, Kate, next slide. I want you to imagine that you're going to go to a meeting, a boring meeting, PowerPoint slides, you're dreading the meeting. The meeting's going to last an hour. You have no choice to go to this meeting. You're dreading going, but you know you have to go. If you knew you had to go to that meeting and you had no choice, and at the end of the meeting, you were going to be tested on 4 questions. 4 questions. You had no choice. You're going to get tested. The 4 questions are, did I do my best to be happy? Did I do my best to find meaning? Did I do my best to build positive relationships? Did I do my best to be fully engaged? If you knew you were going to be tested on these 4 questions, what would you do differently? If you knew you were going to be tested on these 4 questions, what's something you could do differently to raise the score? At least one of the scores. So answer that question. You're going to the meeting, you're kind of dreading it, yet you know at the end of the meeting, you're going to be tested on 4 questions. Did I do my best to be happy, find meaning, build relationships, be fully engaged? What would you do? Be of service. I'm reading these answers. Be supporting other people. Listen more closely. Start being present. Start being present. Listen with curiosity. I love that phrase. Listen with curiosity. Try to understand what others are doing. Be mindful. Smile more. That's a good one. Smile more. Listen with compassion. Be an active partner in the meeting. I've asked, I don't know, 100,000 people around the world this question. So far, nobody has ever said, there's nothing I could do. We can all do something better. Now I'm going to give you a very radical suggestion. Do ask yourself the questions. Do test yourself on the questions. Why? Well, let's go back to the flight attendants. One's positive, motivated, upbeat, enthusiastic. One's negative, bitter, angry, and cynical. They're on the same plane. Who's the real loser when that flight attendant on a 3-hour flight is negative, bitter, angry, and cynical? It's not the American Airlines. They went bankrupt anyway. It's not the customer. I'm the customer. After 5 minutes, I forget about the flight attendant. The real loser for 3 hours is the flight attendant. That person's life was spent in misery for 3 hours. If you're in that meeting and you're bitter and angry and cynical, the real loser is not the company. The real loser is you. The real loser is you. So as we go through life, am I doing my best now to do these things? Okay, next slide. Next slide. Now, we've done a 2-week study where we send people an email every day for 2 weeks, just asking the question. Then we do before and after research to indicate, do people get better? Do people do better? Okay, and it just takes a couple of minutes a day. Next slide. And what do we find out in our research? This is 95 studies with 4,885 participants. 34% of the people said, you know what, I got better at everything. 67% said I got better on at least 4 of the 6 items. 91% said I got better at something. 9% said no change, and less than 1% of the people said things got worse. Why? Every day, these questions get us to focus on the one thing in life I have control over. What is that one question? Did I do my best? Did I do my best? Next slide. So every day, I would recommend these 6 questions. Test yourself every day, and if you don't have enough nerve to do it by yourself every day, which I don't, have someone remind you every day. Report in on your scores every day. Okay, next slide. Now, learning from a great leader. In my role as a coach, I've had the privilege of working with many great leaders, and 200 CEOs, and what have I learned? Well, in my coaching, I don't get paid if my clients don't get better, and better is not judged by me or them, it's judged by everyone around them. And the client I coach the most, spent the most time with, didn't improve at all. The client I spent the least amount of time with improved more than anyone. And I've learned that coaching is not about me, it's about the great people that I coach. It's about the great people that I coach. And what I learned is, as a coach, I'm a facilitator. Now, I got ranked #1 coach in the world for years. Why? Nobody knows if I'm a good coach. I get the best clients. If you coach great people, you're probably going to come off as a great coach. You coach people that don't care, you're wasting your time. So as a coach, most of what my clients learn, they don't learn from me anyway. I'm a facilitator. And I shared this with my friend Alan Mulally, who is the CEO of the year, did improve the most, probably the greatest leader in the world in the last 20 years. And his leadership process is just like my coaching process. He's a facilitator. He's not an expert. He facilitates people's learning. He doesn't teach them everything. Next slide. Now, here's how the BPR process works, the business plan review. And I'll give you a very brief overview. Oh, by the way, if you'd like to learn more about this, there's a great book called American Icon. American Icon, I-C-O-N, about Alan Mulally and how he turned around the company. One of the great leadership stories of our decade, American Icon. Well, what does he do? He goes to work at Ford. The stock is down the drain. $1.01, they're going bankrupt. They're losing $17 billion in a year. My friend Alan says, well, first we're going to focus on leadership behavior. He determines the desired behavior for every leader of the company, and they have a checklist. A simple checklist. That's it. And by the way, this is not a complicated checklist. If you've read any of my books, it's things like treat people with respect and don't make jokes about other people, don't put people down, and don't try to prove you're right all the time. Simple stuff, right? But Alan did something different. No tolerance for bad behavior. None of us are going to break these rules. You know, a couple of people challenged him. They said, this is nonsense. He said, thank you for sharing. Goodbye. Out. 14 of the 16 people that led the company to bankruptcy, the same people turned the company around. How did he change behavior? They agreed on desired behavior. They had a simple checklist. They stuck with it, and he didn't allow deviance, just like the medical doctors. You are going to wash your hands. It's not a vote. You're going to wash your hands, or else don't work here. Well, anybody from the UK, I've got to say, I've worked in NHS, and I am proud of them on this one. In the UK, they don't put up with this nonsense. There is a checklist. You have to wash your hands. You don't wash your hands, you're out of surgery, out. Because if they didn't, they wouldn't do it. Clear on priorities. Alan says to every leader, we're going to set priorities, red, yellow, green. Pick your top 5 priorities, and every week we're going to review how you're doing, red, yellow, green. And then we'll talk about how do we get going, do better. The first meeting, everyone says green. The company is losing 17 billion with a B dollars, and everyone says they're on plan. Green is I'm on plan, yellow is I'm not on plan, but I have a strategy, and red is I'm lost. No plan, no strategy. He said, we're all on plan and we're losing $17 billion. This must not be a good plan. Let's do it again. Finally, somebody said red. Alan did something I've never seen a CEO do. He stands up and applauds. He says, thank you for saying red. Thank you so much. You're not on plan. You don't know how to get there. It's okay. You need help. It's okay. He said, I want to share something with you. My name's Alan Mulally. I'm the CEO of the Ford Motor Company. I know less than you do. Why don't we get some smart young engineers that know how to solve this problem and get the problem solved? Within a short time, the problem was solved. Next slide. Next slide. Now, every week, his process, every leader talks about how they're doing, complete transparency. They share it with a group. He deals with knowledge workers. They try to learn from each other. They practice feed forward. They don't put people down. They give ideas for the future. They share a success for everybody, and they have something in this process called accountability without judgment. Accountability without judgment. Next slide. Now, the life plan review process, which I'm going to describe, combines the two things we've just talked about today. The daily questions and Alan's BPR process, the weekly process he does, into one coaching process. Now, in my LPR process, I'm now working with 50 amazing leaders from different fields. And I can mention their name. One of them is Curtis Martin, American National Football League Hall of Fame. Pau Gasol from Spain, National Basketball Association All-Star, two-time world champion. We have Broadway stars, head of the Rockefeller Foundation, former head of the World Bank. We have head of St. Jude's Children's Hospital. We have head of the U.S. Olympic Committee, just head of Cardinal Health, amazing CEOs, leaders from all kinds of walks of life. Every week, they do the 6 questions. Every week, they write their own questions, and every week, they stand up and talk about them in front of everybody, week after week after week, just like Alan's process. His process is called the business plan review. This is the life plan review. Every week, people do this, and people love it because you know what they said? It makes me accountable. I know I'm going to have to do this every week. I know I'm going to have to stand up in front of these people. We have 50 people. I do this 6 hours every weekend, and we rotate the groups. So I'll have 6 or 8 different people in each group every week, and then the 50 people rotate, and we do it over and over. We did our first season for 10 weeks, and then we asked people to come back. 95% of people wanted to do it again. They loved it. And these are really busy people, really important people. What I love about these people, they're just like me. You know what they'll say? Yeah, I may be special and important. I need help. It's okay. We all need help. It's okay. Next slide. Now, why does it work? Clear purpose, measurable goals. They're aligned with that purpose. Daily accountability, weekly accountability. We have a support group. Let me talk about that one. Today, people are lonely, especially in America. I know leaders are very lonely. Why? We have no one to talk to. We have no one to talk to. Anything you say can be taken out of context, put on social media, and be humiliated. For them to be in a group where they can be vulnerable, they can be human, they can talk about their families, they love it. They just love it. And we have clear structure, just like Alan Mulally's process to help people get better. Next slide. Now, here's my suggestions for you based on today. Number 1, write down your own daily questions. If you'd like my questions, just for reference, send me an email, marshall@marshallgoldsmith.com. I'll send you my questions and an article about it. But the key is you write your own questions. If you really want to get better, get somebody to help you. And they don't have to be a coach or some genius. It could be a friend. Anybody who wants to get better themselves. The main thing is if you have a partner who also wants to get better, this is probably going to work. And again, remember, accountability without judgment. You don't want somebody judging you or making you feel bad. You don't have, you can do that on your own. You want accountability without judgment. Next suggestion, use the first 6 questions. Use the first 6 questions because those questions to me are good for everybody. And then finally, if you can, experiment with a group like the LPR group I discussed. Now, Kate, if we can leave the slides. And what I'd like to do now is just be open to questions. What questions might you have for me? And we've got about 15 minutes left. So if anybody has any questions over the last 15 minutes, what are some good questions that you might have for me? Okay, first question, what does the BPR stand for? Business Plan Review. So if you read the book American Icon, it's called Business Plan Review. They talk about their business goals. So every week they go through this process. Here's my goal, red, yellow, green. People give them input. They practice feed forward, sharing ideas, helping each other better week after week after week. Lots of accountability. Okay, very, very good. No, I recommend 6 questions. I don't mean 6 questions twice, so that's very good. How many people do you recommend are in my LPR groups? I like having each weekly group somewhere between, I'd say 5 people and maybe 10 people at the most, because this lasts for an hour. And you know, everybody needs to be able to talk, and if you have too many people, you don't have enough for a dialogue. And what's the story behind the Marshall smile and wave? Okay, let's practice again. Smile, wave. What does that mean? Let it go. If you've got some stuff you're carrying around, it's not helping you, it's not helping other people. Let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. How do I manage people that are not committed to change? The answer is I don't. I only work with people that care. I don't attempt to change people that don't care. I'm not saying that you shouldn't attempt to change people that don't care. That's just not my job. My job is helping great people get better. I help motivated people improve. I help really great people who are hardworking and dedicated get better. That's all. I don't motivate people. I don't inspire them. They inspire themselves. They inspire themselves. How do you handle tough people at work? Well, I'm going to just share an idea that I got from Peter Drucker. Every decision is made by the person that makes the decision. And if you have to have if you're the manager and you disagree with someone, rather than proving they're wrong, which is our first reaction, I teach people, say, look, you want to do X and you've explained why. You're a smart person. In this case, I want you to do Y. Here's why. And I want you to support me on why. The person says, well, I think you're wrong. You know, maybe I am. If I'm not wrong now, I'll be wrong sometime. This is a decision I'm paid to make. I've thought about it. I respect you. I listen to your opinion. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I want to do. Now, again, a lot of great comments here. And I think very important, getting people to take personal ownership. Getting people to take personal ownership. Now, I've got about 10 minutes. There's one thing also, other than, and Kate, you can keep making note of the questions. Given that most people tend to judge, build an LPR group that supports non-judgment. We don't allow judgment. I facilitate every group, and I'm like Alan Lully, no judging. You are taught when people speak, you listen respectfully, you thank them for their input, and you don't judge. Now you can give them ideas. You might want to try this, you might want to try that, feed forward, and they say thank you. They don't judge either. They don't put down their ideas. We just don't allow judging. In the same way Alan didn't allow judging in my own process, I don't allow judging either. Now, before we finish, I have a good heart but a bad memory, or as my friend Harry said, I have a good memory, it's just very short. I'm getting older. And one thing I really would want to do is, I want people to do what I do. And I'm willing to help anybody do this. There's no charge for this, but what I'd like to get is basically a younger version of me who would be interested in teaching this kind of material around the world. And I'm happy to try to work with people as best I can to help them, because I'm not going to charge them any money for this. But the idea is, you know, I really want to teach people to do what I do. And what I want to do is keep thinking of new ideas. I'm writing a new book called The Earned Life. Yet I'd like to take all the stuff I have done in the past and really just encourage other people to use it in a way that fits them. One of the women in our group is called Nankande, and she's from Zambia. And she said, I'd really like to use your material to teach high potential leaders in Africa. I said, great. She said, though, I think the wording, I said, look, modify it any way you want. Put your name on it. I don't care. Any way that you can use what I do to help people is great. So please just go ahead and do this. I don't really care. So if any of you would like to use my material in any way, you can copy, share, download, duplicate, use a church, nonprofit, charity. Just please use it. Please use it any way you want to. So Kate, you've been looking at the questions better than I have. Any other good questions before we wrap up?
Yeah, one of the questions that I have here, how do I effectively influence people when I'm not in power?
Very good. And this is back to a great learning from Peter Drucker. Every decision in life is made by the person who has the power to make the decision. You make peace with that. And if I need to influence you and you have the power to make the decision, there's one word to describe you, and that's called customer. And there's one word to describe me, that's called salesperson. You don't have to buy, you have to sell. You sell to the best of your needs. You sell what you sell. You change what you can change. If you can't sell, you can't change it, you let it go. As it says in the Bhagavad Gita, don't become fixated on what you can't change. That just is a distraction from what you can change. Put all of your focus and energy not on what you can't change in life, what you can change. If you don't want to be in the company, eventually you can leave. On the other hand, while you're there, you say, I'm going to influence people in the most positive and useful way that I can. And I'm not here to prove I'm smart. I'm not here to make intellectual points. I'm here to make a positive difference. I'm not here to prove I'm smart. I'm not here to prove I'm right. I am here to make a positive difference. Now, let me wrap up. Finally, what's my goal in life? My goal in life is pretty simple. I want to help you or the people around you have a little better life. As I've grown older, my level of aspiration in life has actually gone down and down and down and down and down. Most of life, I am not going to fix. Most of the global problems in the world, I'm not going to fix. My level of impact's going up and up and up and up and up. Why? Well, I'm good worrying about what I'm not going to change. So let's make this real simple. My goal in the last almost hour and a half is one thing: help you have a little better life. The people around you have just a little better life. That's all. That's all. And what I'd like you to do is think right now, and I'd like you to make some comments. What's one thing I might have said that we've talked about today that might help you have a better life? Or maybe one thing you got out of today, maybe one thing you got out of today can help the people around you have a little better life. That's all I want you to get out of this. Please make some notes. What's one thing that can help you or the people around you? One person said the 6 questions, the daily questions. Accountability without judgment. Asking myself, who is the person that I want to become? One person, it's inspiring me to be who I want to be. Let it go. Let it go. Radical candor. Yeah, try to implement this with myself. Set up an LPR group. Feed forward. Did I do my best? Daily questions. Be happy. Courage, humility, and discipline. Well, I want you to just focus on our time, limited time together here, and ask yourself, all right, what is it that I can do? And by the way, if I said something today that doesn't work for you or doesn't make sense to you, it's okay. Just ignore it. What did Buddha say? Hey, just ignore it. It's okay. You don't have to do everything. Don't focus on what you cannot change. Focus on what you can change. Focus on what you can change. So finally, thank you so much. I'm looking at all your nice comments. Thank you so much for all your nice comments. I love getting comments and emails, and that always makes me feel good. And again, please use this in any way you can. We're going to put it online, share it with as many people as you can. Also, 12 hours from now, or I guess 11 hours from now, I'm doing another session. And again, it'll be designed so people at a different time zone can hear it. If any of your friends would like to listen to this 12 hours from now, just let them know. Be happy to share it with them. So finally, it's always my honor to be able to talk to people like you. I hope this helps you and the people around you have just a little bit better life. So thank you very much.